medium of cinema is twofold in nature. It captures stories using real-world elements, but it's also reliant on a theatrical suspension of disbelief. Movies balance measures of reality and fantasy. This is how I describe the cinematography style of Robert Yeoman. His work rides the wave between naturalism and imagination. In this edition, I'll break down the work of Yeoman by looking at his filmic philosophy and how it combines with a selection of gear to tell beautiful, cinematic stories. Born in Pennsylvania, Yeoman got his master's degree at USC's School of Cinematic Arts in 1979. He began his career as a DOP, shooting small commercials before going on to work on a number of independent films. Although he's worked on a variety of genres over his career, his soft, well-exposed lighting style has meant he's become a staple DOP for shooting American comedies. He's worked with directors such as Gus Van Sant, Kevin Smith, Nicholas Stoller, and Paul Fig, although his many collaborations with Wes Anderson is what he's best known for. People usually attribute the visual style of Wes Anderson's films solely to the director, without realizing that Yeoman, who has shot all of his live-action feature films, is also instrumental in creating his aesthetic. Yeoman's lighting helps rein in the levels of intense fantasy of Anderson's films, providing a degree of balance. I do like soft light. I like to make it seem like it's not lit. I've been approached before by people who said, your movies look like you didn't even light them. I take that as a compliment because I want it to feel natural. His soft, evenly exposed lighting, without harsh contrast, complements the light-hearted, comedic tone of many of the films that he shoots. Another characteristic of Yeoman's style, particularly with Anderson, comes from his framing and camera movement. He favors central, symmetrical composition, shooting from a front-on perspective as opposed to a more traditional, angled one, gives his images a theatrical feeling. When we watch a play, our perspective from the audience position is front-on. His framing and the actor's blocking mimics this formal, theatrical point of view. The cinematic perspective he adopts is a wide one. He often uses wider focal length lenses, which produces a more distorted, exaggerated cinematic style, which enhances the background details and the world around the character. He describes using wide lenses on Bottle Rocket, his first collaboration with Anderson. I remember that very early on, Wes and I decided to shoot the whole film on one lens, which was a 27mm lens, and when the studio found out, they came to us and said, "You're not allowed to do that, you have to use another lens." So on the camera reports we put 15mm, 100mm, etc., even though we were shooting 27 for the whole movie. I remember one day the production manager came to me and said, "I see you're using different lenses now." And I said, "Oh yeah, we're mixing it up." And it was still the same lens the entire movie. So it just shows what they know, I guess. The production design and use of color in the films he shoots are often stylized. He's mentioned The Conformist, shot by Vittorio Storaro, as being an influence. He often utilizes a palette which has strong pastel colors and uses complementary colors, which are opposite colors on the spectrum, in his lighting and the mise-en-scène. Color therefore acts in creating a level of contrast in his films, oftentimes more than his lighting levels do. Let's break down how Yeoman creates his soft, even lighting. When lighting night interiors, he likes to use many powerful light sources and bounce or diffuse that light to soften it. For example, on the Grand Budapest Hotel, he rigged 24 maxi brutes to the ceiling. This light was diffused by full Roscoe 216 diffusion. Sometimes he even double diffuses his lights, putting 2 layers of diffusion in front of them for extra softness. Softening a light with diffusion decreases the strength of it, so a powerful tungsten source like a maxi brute is needed to have enough exposure. Having many sources like this is expensive, but spreads the light around the location so that it's more ambient, natural, and less directional. Rigging fixtures to the roof also means that he can shoot wide shots with lots of movement without having to worry about framing out lights. For daylight interiors, he employed the same strategy. He bounced 20 4K daylight HMIs off muslin through the skylight windows in the ceiling. He mixed these daylight sources with practical tungsten fixtures in the frame to create a cool, warm color balance. For night exteriors, he likes to shoot in the blue when possible, which means he shoots the wides in as many shots as possible in the time after the sun is set, but before the sky becomes black. During this brief time window, the sky takes on a beautiful, soft blue light. Again, he punctuates wide shots during this time with touches of practical tungsten street lamps when possible, accentuating a dusk and tungsten complementary color look. The camera movement in his films with Anderson is always precise, cinematic, and smooth, although, for some other directors he's worked with, he has employed a more documentary style, handheld camera. He likes to work with a dolly, particularly a Chapman Hybrid 3, which has reduced friction for smoother dolly shots. He likes the feel and precision of using a dolly, and tends to use it over Steadicam, even for long, extended moves. He's also known for his whip pans, which is where a camera pans quickly and lands on a precise frame. To achieve these, he likes to operate manually on an O'Connor Ultimate 2575 fluid head rather than using wheels. Particularly for swish pans that are more than 90 degrees, I can be more accurate and move the camera faster with a fluid head. For vertical moves, he's occasionally used a matte tower cam, which creates a precise, symmetrical, telescoping up and down movement like an elevator. A large part of his style comes from shooting on film. He's used both 16mm and 35mm for different films, and has used different aspect ratios, lenses, and mediums, sometimes in the same film, to cut between different time periods or stories. He likes the look of Kodak tungsten film stocks, such as Kodak Vision 2 500T, Vision 3 200 tungsten and 500 tungsten, which he shoots in daylight without an 85 correction filter, and then warms up in the grade. He's used different film cameras such as the Aricam ST, Aricam 435, and the Panaflex Platinum. As mentioned, he shot on a variety of lenses, but has a preference for wider focal length anamorphics, particularly a 40mm, for the more comedic perspective it provides. He also favors choosing older, vintage glass, which has more fall-off and softer image characteristics, particularly around the edges of frame. His lens choices include Technovision Cooke Anamorphics, Cooke S4s, Zeiss Super Speeds, and Panavision Primo Anamorphics. For zoom shots, he's used the Optimo 24-290. Yeoman's visual sensibilities lie in a style that is well lit and based off a traditional, cinematic camera movement. He takes elements of reality and amplifies them, packaging stories in a visual style with dynamic textural color and precise theatrical framing. His style is a blend between a naturalistic reality and a fantastical, augmented world. His images lie somewhere in the middle of realism and fiction, which is the same as the world of cinema itself. I'd just like to thank everyone who continues to support this channel by watching, subscribing, and engaging with these videos. In the future, I'd like for this channel to become a platform for discussion and education on cinematic concepts and theory. As there are so many people out there with both questions and vast knowledge, it would be great to see more engagement in the comments from both parties. Until next time, thanks for watching, and goodbye.